Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. Over the past few years of hosting this podcast, I have come to realize how challenging it can be to expand someone's understanding of creativity who doesn't believe they are creative, or who struggles to see how creativity might support them in their everyday life. Once a month, I will be choosing a topic I find fascinating, interesting, or exciting, and combining it with creativity to share with you just how much creativity permeates all aspects of our lives. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about creativity and safety. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's solo episode of Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I am going to be talking about creativity and safety. Now you might think, what does creativity have to do with safety? That is a great question. Let's chat about it. But before we dive in, let's first discuss some types of safety. You may or may not have heard of all of these, but each one plays a very important part in the safety and creativity experience. The first type of safety you have is physical safety. Physical safety is the absence of harm or injury that can be experienced by any person from a physical object or practices that include a physical object. A physical object can include another person, the room or environment itself, furniture, medical equipment, toys, artwork, etc. The next type of safety is emotional safety. Emotional safety enables us the freedom to collaborate, dream, be wildly creative, share bold ideas, feel increased compassion, and express ourselves freely with one another. And the last type of safety I'm going to talk about today is psychological safety. Now, psychological safety is defined as being able to show and employ oneself without fear of negative consequences of self-image, status, or career. In other words, psychological safety means people feel accepted and respected within their current roles. Now, you may be wondering, how do these types of safety connect with creativity? Well, when we feel physically safe, emotionally safe, and psychologically safe, we actually have a greater capacity to tap into our creativity. So before I dive in any further, I do want to mention that having 100% safety is never possible. There are too many factors outside of our control to have situations be 100% safe. Therefore, we focus on feeling safe enough. This is the range of safety that each individual learns for themselves. Your safe enough range will be different from my safe enough range. There are many factors that go into feeling safe enough, and the things one person identifies as safe may not feel safe to others, and that is where trauma experience comes in. Now, I'm not going to get into trauma and safety, as that could be an entirely different podcast, but I did want to mention, if you have experienced trauma, and many of us have, those experiences will impact our ability to feel safe. So we need to acknowledge this and try not to judge ourselves when we don't feel safe and everyone around us does. If you've listened to any of my other solo episodes, you know my love for neuroscience and the brain. So I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about safety and the brain. Dr. Stephen Porges, a pioneer in the field of neuroscience and one of the world's leading experts on the autonomic nervous system, confirms that we have an imperative for safety deeply wired into our minds and bodies. Porges' polyvagal theory describes how our autonomic nervous system mediates safety, trust, and intimacy through a subsystem he calls the social engagement system. Our brain is constantly detecting through our senses whether we are in a situation that is safe, dangerous, or life-threatening. When our body and mind experience safety, our social engagement system enables us to collaborate, to listen, empathize, and connect, as well as be creative, innovative, and bold in our thinking and ideas. This has huge positive benefits for our relationships as well as our lives in general. There is also part of our brain that keeps us alert to physical dangers, but in modern times, we aren't likely to be eaten by a giant carnivore on a daily basis, so those parts have been commandeered to keep our identity, and therefore our emotional well-being and sense of self, safe as well. Essentially, the same parts of our brain work to keep us physically and psychologically safe. I hope it's clear that you won't get creativity or innovation without psychological safety. So it makes complete sense that we pay attention and place psychological safety high on our priority list. So why is psychological safety so important to creativity? Psychological safety means knowing that you can turn up and be yourself without facing negative outcomes. It's about feeling safe in an environment so that you can do your best. Psychological safety is fundamentally important to people being able to be creative and innovative. Central to psychological safety is feeling that it's okay to make mistakes. Have you ever had the experience where your boss or colleague has asked for an idea on how to solve a problem and you share an idea that may seem out of left field? And rather than shooting that idea down, your boss or colleague gets curious about the idea, digs deeper, and it becomes an idea festival. That is psychological safety, supporting creativity. And it's even better when you realize that the out of left field idea may actually work. It's also important to understand that if you do not feel safe, then a lot of your energy goes towards protecting yourself and your identity. This is why psychological safety is so important. It's because you're effectively locking up a lot of resources that you could be otherwise using to be more creative or taking another risk or doing something different. Once you've unlocked that, then you'll find you'll get more productivity, you'll get better ideas, and you'll get more creative. Now, psychological safety is a co-created experience. Much of the research shows that all levels of an organization have roles to play in creating psychological safety. But you could create the safest environment you want, and not everyone will feel psychologically safe. So in addition to the organization and the leaders, the individuals need to take responsibility for making sure they know what they need to feel psychologically safe and then communicate that to their team. Now, these can be uncomfortable, vulnerable, and sometimes scary conversations. However, if you are looking to expand the creativity and innovation of your team, regardless of your industry, these are the conversations that need to happen. When everyone knows what they need to feel psychologically safe and how they can help others or the organization to give that to them, and how they can make it apparent when they don't feel safe so that they can get help, that's when creativity can flow. And people are no longer devoting most of their energy to protecting their identity and keeping their ideas to themselves. Studies on psychological safety point to wide-ranging benefits, including increased confidence, creativity, trust, and surprising, productivity. In a 2017 Gallup report found that if organizations increased psychological safety, it makes employees more engaged in their work and can lead to a 12% increase in productivity. 12% increase in productivity. That, in my mind, is enormous. So in any work or school setting, providing an opportunity to share and listen to what people need to feel safe is crucial to be able to determine exactly how to establish an optimal environment for creativity and innovation. We need to create an environment where everyone understands and adheres to the same values and rules about listening, sharing, and respect. We also need to accept that risk is inevitable, and that's okay. It frees people up to offer ideas and then make them happen. Something that I think is important to say is that psychological safety doesn't mean that everyone is nice all the time. It means that you embrace the conflict and you speak up, knowing that there are people who have your back and that you have theirs. Here are 5 ways you can start to incorporate psychological safety into your life so you can unleash more creativity and innovation. Number 1, make psychological safety an explicit priority. Talk about what psychological safety is and why it's important to create psychological safety at work, at home, and at school. Number 2, facilitate everyone speaking up. Show genuine curiosity and honor candor and truth-telling. Be open-minded, compassionate, and empathic when someone is brave enough to say something challenging the status quo. Number 3, establish norms for how failure is handled. Don't punish experimentation and reasonable risk-taking. Encourage learning from failure and disappointment, and openly share your hard-won lessons learned from mistakes. Number 4, create space for new ideas, even the wild ones. When challenging an idea, provide the challenge in the larger context of support. Consider whether you only want ideas that have been thoroughly tested or whether you're willing to accept highly creative, out-of-the-box ideas that are not yet well formulated. And number 5, embrace productive conflict. Promote dialogue and productive debate and work to resolve conflicts productively. These are just some of the ways you can begin to embrace psychological safety in your life, your workplace, at school, and anywhere else you may find yourself. So let's circle back to creativity and safety. Can you see how these two go hand in hand? When we don't feel safe enough to take a risk, share an idea, or try something new, creativity has nowhere to show up. Without the foundation of safety, creativity and innovation are sent to the back of the line over and over and over again. In today's world where creativity is considered the skill of the future, I think it's safe to say that safety is the foundation of the future. Thank you so much for joining me for this solo episode. I love getting the opportunity to share with you how creativity connects to other areas of our lives and how creativity can support transformation and growth. Creativity is a mindset, and anything we do can be creative. Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.